Well, good morning, everybody. We're reading through Amos 6 to 9. And we find something here that we find in Isaiah as well. And we find it as a theme throughout. It's the understanding of what Yahweh's expectations of Israel was, and they were supposed to build a culture, and that culture was supposed to be based on justice and righteousness. Everything was supposed to be based on justice and righteousness, and a key to this culture that they were supposed to develop was looking after the disadvantaged. Always, it was a compassionate thing. It was just. It was giving them what was right, doing what was right. So looking after the poor, bringing the poor to a position of equality if they were disadvantaged. Compensating for that disadvantage. It was to care for the orphans and the widows, and especially the immigrants, because he told them, remember, you were immigrants in Egypt. You know what it was like, so take care of the immigrants. So there's this thing about doing what was right. And they failed. They failed to develop that culture. It was at one time something that they were close to achieving, but they blew it because the foundation of that you can't develop that unless you are connected to the head, unless you are connected. So because they were letting go of the relationship with Yahweh, obviously there's no way they could develop this culture. It wasn't supposed to be outside of Him. It was supposed to be because of Him. And so this is, you can hear the judgment being declared. It's being pronounced over them. And there's two things that strike me as this is being declared. One is how patient Dad really is. Because he had told them from the beginning that one infraction of his law, one thing, and that's why he gave them that system of sacrifices, so that everything could be covered. But they stopped covering it. They stopped paying attention. This was no longer of any value. It was no longer important to them because Yahweh was no longer important to them. They had a very unjust and corrupt society, and at times Yahweh was saying worse than the nations that they had displaced. But instead of kicking them out right from the beginning, he gave them generation after generation after generation after generation of opportunity to repent. He gave them the opportunity to repent. And he was very, old King James is long-suffering. He was very long-suffering, very patient with them to see this happen. The other thing about the pronouncement of this judgment was it also contained hope. It talked about the reconciliation, that this wouldn't be forever, that he had a plan to bring them back to him, for them to be reconciled to him, for him to forgive them. And that to me just amazes me. It amazes me. And so bring it into where we are today. There's a lot of people who are puzzled of why it's taking the Lord so long to return, because we live in an age of grace. And I know we don't always operate in it. We're very judgmental. We're very condemning. Instead of extending the invitation to people, we stand around and throw stones at them. But that's another thing altogether. He's given us this beautiful invitation to give, but he says that there is a day reserved for judgment. There is a day reserved when all of this, and Jesus said that the only thing required, it's not about the behavior, it's about the heart. So the only thing that matters is whether they've accepted him. That's what's going to be judged, whether they accepted that forgiveness, whether they accepted that relationship with him. And the reason he's taking so long, the reason Father's taking so long, is the same reason that he had with Israel. He has given the world as long as he possibly can to turn to him. so as many as people can escape the consequences as possible. And when we look at what the condition was for Israel to take over the promised land, was waiting for the nations to reach the apex of their wickedness. When did he remove Israel? When they had reached the apex of their wickedness. When will judgment come upon this world? I suspect when we have reached the apex of wickedness. And yeah, but it's not for us to be sitting around and looking down our noses at people, because we had belonged to them. We should be able to relate, just as Israel should have been really able to relate to the immigrants. We are supposed to be busy with our King's mission, and that's the reconciliation of people to the Lord. And that's what we should be busy with. Of course, the world's going to sin. Of course it is. It's in rebellion, and it doesn't even understand that rebellion. So it's up for us to demonstrate what are the benefits. What are the benefits? Because nobody in this day and age thinks of the long-term consequences. Everybody thinks of today. So love, joy, peace, the benefits today that we have with the Lord. So let's be demonstrating that. Let's show this world what it is to love and be loved. You guys have a great day. God bless.